I'm out in the woods today and there's no one around, so my dogs are running free here. I was hoping I'd get a picture of them trying to climb this tree, because there's a squirrel on top of this silver birch tree that's in front of me here. And they were just running up the side of the tree. It was fantastic. They were getting about 8 feet up before they came crashing down. Now, of course, and I've got my camera going, they are a picture of nothingness. Anyhow, I wasn't really thinking about dogs. I was thinking about prostitution in this beautiful place. Why not? Again, I'm still thinking about this video, or this set of videos. It's not really about the video that sparked all this. There's a lot of other deep discussion around it, which I think is quite interesting. So I'm still kind of engaged with that in my mind. And one of the things I'm thinking of is about the way sex workers are regarded, including how I regard them, I think. Because I think it's important to know where you're coming from, isn't it, really, on these things? And how they're regarded by other people around you, I suppose. I suppose this is partly prompted by some thinking I was doing about, you know, what if my daughter was a sex worker? And you know, and that was brought up by a video response that was made. And what I was saying in there was, you know, I would be very concerned about that. Not necessarily for how I feel about prostitution, but for how prostitutes are viewed by the wider society. And I think I just need to get in there a bit more and think a bit more about that. Firstly, about, you know, how I view prostitutes and sex workers, and that's going to be coloured by my experience. I don't have any first-hand experience with a prostitute as a client. I'm not saying I haven't been tempted occasionally. When my kids, well, not so much now, but when they were a few years ago, they used to go up to a skate park in Manchester, which is just around the corner from quite a well-known massage parlour. And I thought, oh, I've got 4 hours to spare. Maybe I should just go to, I won't say it, but to this massage parlour. But it's only ever been a kind of fleeting thought. Never beyond that. So I've no experience of that kind of first-hand experience. I've met prostitutes and sex workers quite a bit. My sister, who's never been a sex worker, but my sister used to work for the Playboy organisation. She was a bunny girl quite some time ago, because she's my older sister, and I'm quite old. So it was, you know, 30 odd years ago. Yeah, about 30 years ago, she was a Playboy bunny. Which isn't a prostitute, of course, but it did give her kind of access into a world of adult entertainment. And after she did that at various times over the last 25, 30 years, she's done, you know, she's managed gentlemen's clubs, lap dancing bars, pole dancing bars, that kind of thing. She was a manager of a sex shop for a while, selling, you know, marital aids and, you know, all that kind of stuff, really, blow-up dolls. Also, she had a dressing service for transvestites as part of that, which is really interesting. Again, that's not prostitution, but you know, there's a certain amount of fluidity between these roles, and certainly when she was working for and managing lap dancing clubs, some of the women that were working for her as dancers, and who I met a few times, you know, we did have a kind of sliding set of roles, really. You know, some of them were performers on television, on the Babestation channels, that kind of thing, which again is not prostitution, although it is softcore porn. And some of them did more hardcore porn as well as that. I don't know if any of them were a prostitute, but I got the impression that some of them might have been. But they were very nice people. You know, as I say, I only met a couple of them on a couple of occasions, but they seemed, you know, really straightforward, you know, working class lasses from, in those particular cases, from the north of England, you know, who had been born with certain physical assets that they were prepared to exploit, and went for it, really. So yeah, so I've got that experience. I've got some experience of meeting other slightly less happy prostitutes. I went to a club with my brother a few times up in South Shields, which is up in the northeast, when he used to work on a particular oil rig, which, you know, had a kind of base there. And this was a club called the Jungle in South Shields, that was frequented by oil workers. And that had a set of prostitutes, sex workers working out of there, who were, you know, it was a very leery place anyway, terrifying place to be in. But the sex workers working out of there were, you know, you didn't mess with those, I tell you, you didn't mess with them. And some of those had serious drug problems. It was clearly evident. And many years ago, when I used to live in Blackburn in Lancashire, I used to know one or two prostitutes, just because of some kind of weird tangential connections through some private taxi services that would, had some kind of special deal with. I don't know, it's too complicated to explain, but there was, I kind of had nodding relationships with some of the girls that worked out of there. So now none of this stuff is first-hand experience, none of it is subjective experience, it's not in-depth experience by any means. But I never met anybody who'd been trafficked. I never met anybody who was forced to do it against their will. But it is many years ago, so I don't have extensive experience. I didn't meet anybody, on the other hand, who was funding their way through college, or who was just doing it to kill time before they took up their post as CEO of some international corporation or a brain surgeon. I didn't meet any of those people, which, is perhaps not to be expected. Okay, so that's my relationship to it. I suppose all I'm saying there is I don't feel as if I'm coming to this with any baggage of bad experiences. You know what I mean? I don't have a stereotype of a kind of prostitute as a bad person. I really don't, because all the ones I've met have been fine, actually. Apart from the ones in the jungle who are a bit leery. What I have met, though, is customers of prostitutes. And the customers of prostitutes, one of the reasons why I've been a bit funny about, well, not the only reason, obviously, but one of the reasons why I would feel a bit funny about joining the constituency of clients, is that a lot of the customers I've met are real arseholes. Some of the men I've met in the jungle, in the club in Blackburn, in various other places, have been such arseholes. I mean, I've never known an industry, in fact, outside of this particular experience of the sex industry, in which the users of a particular service hold the providers of that service in such low esteem, such low regard. You know what I mean? I mean, these guys I would talk to would just say the vilest things about these women they just had sex with, or were about to have sex with. I mean, astonishing misogyny going on amongst the clients, which is strange. I mean, again, that may well be not a representative sample. It may not be common at all, but there was something very strange going on there, and I do suspect it might be relatively widespread, just because it's such a problematic area for men and women, isn't it? Their sexuality, it's a bloody minefield. And I'm sure the minefield isn't suddenly clear just because you happen to pay for it, or it becomes relatively professionalised. And for men, it's it is undoubtedly a minefield. And why we'd like to, I think, pretend that we can just do the in-out thank you and goodbye thing, it's not quite as simple as that. We do have very ambiguous and ambivalent feelings about the women we're having sex with, in that kind of a casual relationship or a for-profit relationship. And as I say, I think a significant number of men try to kind of cope with that ambivalence by developing very misogynistic feelings towards the providers of those services, which, as I say, you don't find in the relationships between people who buy coal and coal miners, or the people who buy McDonald's meals and the guy who serves you over the counter, or the girl who gives you over the counter. You know what I mean? There's something weird about that relationship a lot of time. Anyway, I don't think there's anything conclusive I've said there, really. I'm just trying to flesh out a little bit kind of where I'm coming from, really, and some experiences that I've had that are feeding into my thoughts and understandings of that whole ball of wax.